Okay, so now we're going to talk about classification of living things, and I have my um, video camera on so that you can see some things that I'm going to show you. Living things are always organized into groups based on similarities. So similarities, they're not these arbitrary things like, oh, are they pink or brown or blue? We definitely could organize them in that way. So here I have this cute little duck from Niagara Falls. So really cool. Here I have the chickenpox virus. Super like creepy, right? Here I have a cute little pound puppy dog, just adorable. And just for funsies, I have a lot of toys, can you tell? I have Pinocchio. Do you see that? Oh, there we go. Here he is, this big nose. So we could classify these things based on, are they soft? Are they hard? But that's not really how we classify. We look for characteristics that are important characteristics to the organism. What are the genes telling us? What does their DNA tell us? Do these organisms eat meat? Do these organisms eat plants? Do these organisms absorb food? Do they have to take in food? Can they produce their own food? These are the types of characteristics that we're looking at. Okay. And so when we classify things, what we're doing is we're using a scientific method called systematics. And so you could actually be a systematics biologist, where this would be your life. You would be classifying organisms, looking at organisms and trying to put them into categories based on similarities. So in the group or in the humans, Homo sapiens, we fall under the kingdom Animalia, phylum Chordata. So all animals are in Animalia, and animals are organisms that need to gain nutrients from organic molecules. We fall under Chordata, which means we have that spinal cord or that notochord. Then we go from chordata to mammalia. Mammals have the ability to produce milk for their offspring. We have hair on our bodies. And then from there we go to the order Primata. Primates are organisms that can walk oftentimes on two legs. They can walk on all four if they want, four, hands and feet, or on two legs. But we also have these things called opposable thumbs. From there, we move to the family Hominidae, which is getting more and more specific in what characteristics we have. From there, we move to Homo, which is organisms like Homo erectus, Homo habilis, and of course, humans, which are or modern humans, I should say, which are Homo sapiens. The largest classification, though, is the domain. And there are three domains. Two of the domains fall under a category called prokaryotic domains. A prokaryote, the term prokaryote means pre-nucleus, so pre, karyote, nucleus. So they are organisms that came before the nucleated cell came into being. Eukaryotes are organisms that contain a nucleus, and there's one domain that falls under the eukaryote setting. So one of those domains is called Archaea. Archaea are unicellular prokaryotic organisms that can survive in very hostile environments. So hydrothermal vents, hot springs. Also, the opposite extreme, polar ice caps. These organisms can survive in volcanic environments where there's a lot of sulfur. And they're able to not only survive, but thrive. The Great Salt Flats. Those are things that these eukaryotic organisms can survive, or these prokaryotic organisms can survive in. The next domain is bacteria. Bacteria are the earliest life form, and they're also unicellular. They're prokaryotic, just like the Archaea. These two groups are very similar in their structures, but they're found in some unique places. So Archaea are very much extremists, whereas bacteria often are found in the same places that animals survive. So we wouldn't survive typically down in the hydrothermal vents, but and so a lot of bacterial species can't survive there either. Most bacteria, so bacteria will be found anywhere on Earth that other life is found. And bacteria typically is very beneficial to the environment and to, to whatever environment they're in. So the human environment, they live in our skin, they live in our body, and they're very beneficial to us. But some of those bacterial species do cause disease, which is why we have a wonderful class called microbiology. For any of you who are interested in taking it, it's being offered 3 times this summer, and my class is still open, so you can always take it. It's in the evening. The last domain is called domain Eukarya. These can contain all of our eukaryotic organisms, and a eukaryote has a nucleus. So that prefix means true. Karyote means nucleus. So they have a membrane-bound nucleus. And if you're in the domain Eukarya, then you are going to fall under one of the 4 kingdoms: Protista, fungi, plantae, or animalia. And we tend to focus a lot on animalia because we are animals, but there are a lot of other organisms that fall under the Eukarya domain. So here are some examples. Protists. There are, in general, I should say, protists are going to be the catch-all for eukaryotes. If you don't fall into any other category, you might be considered a protist. And the group Protista is constantly changing because they're either adding or taking away from that group. In general, protists or protists are always going to be single-celled. They're going to typically take in food, so they have to take food into their body. They are not, in general, photosynthesizers. Dinoflagellates are considered protists that make up the zooplankton in the environment. Slime molds are considered multicellular, but they're often taken out of the Protista grouping and put in other groups. So slime molds, I don't really put it as a protist. So that's why I say protists are single-celled organisms. I consider slime molds their own little group. Fungi are organisms that always absorb nutrients. They can be multicellular. These are your molds, like your mushrooms. They can be unicellular, yeasts. Plants, most of us know plants. Plants are photosynthetic organisms. And plants take in sunlight energy and convert it to food energy. Algae have been put into their own group. And algae, so they're no longer considered protists either. Algae are in the group algae. And I believe dinoflagellates fall under the algal group now. But they are photosynthetic organisms as well. They can be unicellular or multicellular. And then we have Animalia. This is our group. We take in food through ingestion. Animalia, animals. Worms are animals. Birds are animals. Dogs and cats are animals. And then we're animals as well. And so this is our classification from most inclusive to least inclusive. So domain takes all the organisms that fit in the same group. So our domain, Eukarya, contains all the protists, plants, algae, fungi, animals. And then we go down to species, or the species is the individual group of organisms that can interbreed and produce offspring. And I talked about this already, but this is your human classification. So we have Eukarya, Animalia, Chordata, Mammalia, Primata, Hominidae, Homo, and then Homo sapien, which is the entire group that we fall under. Taxonomy then is the way that we identify organisms. We use this thing called a binomial nomenclature to assign each individual or each organism into one taxon. And when we do this, we use the genus and then the specific epithet. So the genus name for humans is Homo. The specific epithet is sapien, and we put that together, and that gives us our species name, Homo sapien. And we talked about organization of the organism. The biosphere is organized very similarly. So all living things are organized, while the environment that we live in is also organized. We all live in an ecosystem. An ecosystem is characterized by the environment that we live in, temperature, the amount of water, the living and non-living things that make up where we live, okay? So we're part of our own ecosystem. But the air temperature, the amount of light that we have, the amount of dirt that we live on, the amount of nutrients in the ground, that's all part of our ecosystem. We live in communities. So a community is a group of different species that live together. So like my house, I have 3 dogs. I have a cat. Right now we have 3 guinea pigs. 2 of them belong to my other school, but we have them. And then there are 4 humans that are living here. On top of that, we have, the bacteria that we're breathing in, bacteria that live on and inside of us. Those are all part of the community that we live in. And then the least inclusive are the populations. So each group of organisms that belong to the same species. So in my house, there are 4 humans, Homo sapiens. There are 3 dogs, 1 cat. And so that is the least inclusive. And I just mentioned this, so I'll let you read this for a second. I'm going to actually stop here because this video will shut off otherwise, okay? Because I only have 15-minute videos. So enjoy watching this one, and I'll make up your last video for you to watch.